The food we've enjoyed tonight was harvested by farm workers who had few rights until our next honoree fought for them. Dolores Huerta began her career as a school teacher, but she soon found that many of her students, the children of migrant farm workers, were struggling with extreme poverty and hunger. So Dolores resolved to help them. She gave up teaching and she began organizing agricultural workers. By 1955, she had founded a union, the Agricultural Workers Association. By 1962, she and Cesar Chavez had co-founded a bigger, stronger union, the National Farm Workers Association, precursor to the United Farm Workers. And just a few years later, she negotiated the first contract between farm workers and growers in U.S. history. By 1965, she had become the lead organizer of one of the most important and successful strikes in U.S. history, the Table Grape Boycott, which lasted more than 5 years. Workers eventually signed a 3-year contract with growers, and the strike led to passage of the Farm Workers' Bill of Rights in California. Looking back now on this history, which I have only just barely sketched, we can't romanticize it and assume progress came without great risk or sacrifice. Dolores gave up the stability of her career to stand with those in need. She put the movement ahead of herself and her family. Her sole mission was to liberate farm workers. She placed her life and safety in jeopardy on countless occasions. In 1988, she was actually beaten so badly by a baton-wielding police officer that she was put in the hospital for a month. But through all of this, Dolores remained steadfast in her beliefs, and she persisted. And she's persisted through all these years. Today, she continues to develop leaders and train advocates for the working poor, women, and children. As founder and president of the Dolores Huerta Foundation, she travels across the country to support equality and defend civil rights. In honor of the ACLU's long and deep relationship with farm workers, and in admiration of her lifetime devotion to social justice, the ACLU of Southern California is honored to present the 2017 Lifetime Advocate for Justice Award to Dolores Huerta.
Thank you very much. I am so grateful to receive this award from the ACLU. This is like getting the Nobel Prize for Civil Liberties and Civil Rights, right? ACLU. And also to share with you that back there where the farm workers are, you know, it's not that far from here. You just go over the grapevine, and right there you'll find a whole different world. You'll find this world where you have a lot of poverty, a lot of racism, where you have police officers. Bakersville, California, The Guardian wrote last year, it was the #1 city where people have been killed by law enforcement. And in my own foundation, Dolores Huerta Foundation, we have been recently working on stopping the school-to-prison pipeline. Yeah, we just settled a lawsuit with the Kern High School District because of the huge suspension of African American and Latino children, hundreds of times higher than white children. They now have to have cultural competency training, positive behavior intervention systems, restorative justice, and yes, they have to celebrate African American Month and Hispanic Heritage Month, just to begin. But if that wasn't so bad, at the Bakersville High School, we recently started a campaign in a town called California City, which is up there near the Mojave Desert. California City, you're not going to believe this, the suspension rate of African American students is 81%. How can this be? How can these children will have no future? And this is going on all over the country. Our children of color are not getting an adequate education, and the only road for them is through the prison system. There in the San Joaquin Valley, 40% of the school districts that have the highest suspension and expulsion rates are right there in the Central Valley of California. So this is an area that we think it's more like Alabama than it is like Los Angeles. And the way that our foundation works is that we organize the parents so that they are the ones that can take up the struggle. We're not going to do it for them. They have to learn how to do it for themselves. And we are having some successes in making this happen. But we know, as in the film that you just saw the trailer of, the way that we work with the Farm Workers Union is we taught the farm workers that they had to stand up for themselves. And that is the one thing I think, the one thing that we have to take away from what we're going through right now. To really understand that we have the power, that we have the power, and they have the power. And many of these people, they've never gone to high school or to college. Many of them are undocumented. But the one thing that we teach them, you know what? You have the power to fight the struggle. And if you don't take up the fight, nobody is going to do this for you. You cannot depend on anybody to do it. And I am so happy to hear and to tell you that the ACLU is coming to the Central Valley. So the contributions that you are making tonight will help us change this. And when we think of the Central Valley, we have to think of really how large it is. I just have to have a little commercial here. My own son, Emilio Huerta, is running for Congress. His district, CD21, is one of the poorest in the whole United States of America. It is the size of Maryland. That's how big it is. There is not one single university in his district, but there are plenty of jails. There are plenty of jails. And this is very, very deliberate. As you may have heard, they are now building 5 new prisons for undocumented people. 5 new prisons. And we have to remind people, it is not a crime to cross the border. Because when you cross the border, it is a civil offense. It's not a crime because you're not hurting anybody. But they have made that into a crime so they can fill the jails. I know when we think of the situation that we're in right now, we have to think of the F word, fascism. We have to think of that word, and that it seems that that's where we're going. But the one thing that we have learned is that we have the power to stop it. And it takes people, I do want to mention my good friend Jane Fonda, who is here, who is one of our contributors to help us keep this fight going. Thank you, Jane. She was there with us in the farm worker movement. I remember once we got a contract just because she said, I might boycott your product, okay? And they signed right away. So this shows the power that we all have collectively and that we can do it together. And I want to thank Colin also for taking that knee. Yes, thank you for taking the knee so the rest of us can stand up. So I just want to say to everyone, you know, I know sometimes we kind of get, we feel kind of sad and we feel depressed about what's going on. But I like to quote the poet Pablo Neruda from Chile, who said, they can cut all the flowers, but they can't hold back the spring. They can cut all the flowers, but they can't hold back the spring. And to remember that we are the flowers, right? We are the ones that are going to go out there. We're going to spread the seeds of justice all over this country. And yes, we are going to come back. And just like we did in the 60s, when the farm workers were able to, yes, overcome Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan and win, and win with the help of the American public. All of you out there, thank you very much for all the donations that you gave to the Farm Workers Union. Because of you, farm workers have toilets in the fields, cold drinking water, and the right to collective bargaining, and the respect that they deserve for feeding us every single day. And so if we take those lessons of the 60s and the 70s, we know that we ultimately are going to be victorious. And you know, when we think about the racism, the misogyny, the homophobia, the bigotry against poor people, you know what, in a way it's a good thing, because all of those people who fit those labels, they are now identifiable, right? I like identity politics, okay? Let them identify themselves so we will know who they are. We will know who they are. They don't have to expose themselves. And sometimes things have to get so bad, it's like a sore. It has to get red and orange and really ugly. And then we know that we have to do something about it, and that we do have the power to do it. So I just want to say to all of you, yes, keep supporting the ACLU, keep supporting all the nonprofit organizations, and we know that together we can win. And I'm going to ask all a question, and I know you know the answer, but I want you to shout it out really loud. The question is very simple. I'm going to ask you, who's got the power? And I want you to say, we've got the power, okay? And then I'm going to say, what kind of power? And I want you to say, people power. And when we talk about all of the different issues, the different movements, let's not forget the labor movement, right? Let's not forget the labor movement, who is under constant attack, and they are trying to eliminate the labor movement, which means eliminating the middle class. And if we don't have a middle class, we do not have a democracy in the United States of America. Okay, so I'm going to shout it out, and I want you to shout it out really loud. And I want you to shout so loud that the neo-Nazis can hear us, okay? Okay, so let's go. Who's got the power? I think we can do that a little bit louder. Okay, one more time. Who's got the power? What kind of power? All right, are we going to go out there and organize? And by the way, if you want to come down to the Central Valley, put on your tennis shoes, come and knock on some doors up there with poor people, so you can see, like I saw when I first did that, how some people were barely able to live. We invite you to come to Central Valley, come on and knock on some doors, help my son get elected to the Congress, okay? So one more time, who's got the power? What kind of power? Okay, let's go out there, let's go organize, let's talk to people, even people that don't want to listen to us. We can find, we can get through to them, and we talk to them long enough and hard enough. So, are we going to be able to do it out there? Yes. What do we say? ¿Se puede o no se puede? Sí, se puede. Okay, let's all go together with an organized hand clap. Let's say, sí se puede. Let's go. Sí se puede. Thank you. And one more. Let's do a Viva, a long live for the ACLU. I'm going to say Viva the ACLU, and everybody shout a big old Viva. Let's go. Viva the ACLU. Viva. Muchas gracias. Thank you. Thank you very much.